And now is the time to give a warm welcome to our first keynote speaker, John White from US Signal, who will share more about their year with Apache CloudStack.
Thanks everybody for being here. Thanks again from Yvette and the Shape Blue team for putting this on. I know it takes a whole village to make this all happen, so appreciate that and glad to be back. Last year in Madrid, I told you when we were on we did a panel, somebody asked, will I be back? Back, and brought a whole bunch of friends with me, partners, colleagues, so I'm super excited to be here and give this talk today. My name is John White. I'm the COO of US Signal. This QR code, I promise it won't steal any of your data. It'll actually connect you to my LinkedIn. Would love to do that because this room, there was a lot of new hands up, and that's super exciting that as our community is growing. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about where we've taken this project in the last year from really a vision when we were on stage last year in Madrid to actually providing impact to our business as well as our customers. Before I do that, and before everybody tunes out or goes into their morning fog, or if you're on YouTube and you're only watching it for 5 minutes, I want to open an invite to anybody to reach out at any time and ask questions. Anything I talk about today, if there's something it's like, all right, that's a good idea or that's a dumb idea, let's have a conversation about it. If you think it's a good idea, I'd love to work with you on it. If you think it's a bad idea, tell me why. I'm curious on that as well. Because I think the one big difference here in the last year and a half working inside of this open source project is the community and how we can all partner together to grow. And that was the one thing I talked about last year in Madrid, is that the one thing I think we can all do for each other is to continue to promote and make sure that everybody is aware in the world of how awesome this community is and how much it can actually impact your business as a service provider, your business as an enterprise, you know, whatever it might be. So I'll talk about that whole vision from impact, but that's my invite to you all to make sure to reach out and let's collaborate and let's talk with each other. And if there's anything, like I said, that we're talking about, because we'll talk about our futures here, if there's anything that's interesting to you, let us know. We'd love to collaborate with you on it. So real quick about me, I've been in the infrastructure space pretty much all my life. I looked at it yesterday. I started talking about cloud and virtualization back in 2005, and so it's almost been 2 decades, or it really has been 2 decades of talking about infrastructure. I've been in a lot of different innovation titles in my past career, so Chief Innovation Officer a few times, and actually I worked at AWS, so I got a really good understanding of what it looks like to run a pretty large VMware shop, but also then be in the belly of the beast of the hyperscaler to kind of get the tale of 2 cities or the tale of 2 clouds. Built a lot of cool products over the years. Gartner recognized them. If you know what that means, you just have to pay $40,000 for the paper and then you're good to go. But it does show and it promotes kind of what's unique in the industry. Today, I'm responsible for solution architecture, product engineering, facilities. So we do a lot of data center work, operations, all that fun stuff. And when I'm not doing that, I'm usually chasing around my 4 kids. We do a lot of soccer or football in Europe. And when I'm not doing that, I race cars, which is a fun hobby to have. And so if you follow me on LinkedIn already, you know I'm passionate about 2 things, 3 things maybe: data centers, open source, and cars. I talk about that on LinkedIn as well. And I also do love vacationing. Real quick about US Signal. We've been around for quite some time. We started in the connectivity space. We moved to data centers. Then we moved to cloud, security, managed services. And we've been continuing to grow from there. Today, we operate 16 data centers across the United States and growing. We actually have 10 under construction right now, a few under acquisition. We also are big on the fiber side of it. So we have a fiber network that we run inside the United States, and we are continuing to grow that as well. So one of my favorite books growing up was A Christmas Carol. So Charles Dickens, classic novel. We're right into the holiday season. We go into Thanksgiving next week in the United States, and then boom, Christmas is on its path. And so I thought we'd have a little bit of fun here because I did actually have to take some electives when I was in college, so I did have to take a literature class. But does anybody know kind of the origin of the Christmas story? All right, well, in the mid-1800s, in England, a lot of change was occurring around the Christmas holiday. So they had old past traditions that they were talking about leaving. They had current traditions that they were looking at modifying, and they were looking to see where they wanted to go. And so that's kind of the origin of this book. And I thought it was fitting for time of year and also the situation we're in. And we'll have a little bit of fun on the Cloud Carol. So with that, we will start with the ghost of cloud past. And I guarantee you a few people probably know what I'll talk about here. But before I start there, does anybody know the origin story of Pure Storage? By chance. All right, who expected that one early in the morning? So Pure Storage, we all know Pure Storage, big storage company. And I don't know this for a fact, but this is what I was told by some of their executive team. When they were starting, they went on a whiteboard and they listed out everything that EMC did and how they operated their business and how they provided storage. And you know what they did? The opposite. And that's what created Pure Storage. And so when I was thinking about, how we kind of got to this situation is we were trying to do an opposite of a lot of the life lessons we learned along the way of providing infrastructure. One of the first life lessons we learned, and when we started talking about, we wanted to build something different, is that we learned over the years that virtualization is not exactly cloud. Virtualization is how we started. It's where we all came from. But that's not exactly what cloud was meant to be. And when you look at some of these details, and this is a lot of what we see here in the next few slides, is what we put up on a whiteboard to kind of say, hey, this is where we've been and we don't want to do that again. But if you look at here, the hardware compatibility matrix, that being a pain in the butt, the scaling side of it, the lock-in, the limited R&D, when I was in the virtualization space, the R&D all went to the enterprise, not the service provider. Our needs are a little bit different. So we learned that life lesson over multiple decades, and I'm sure all of you did as well. The other thing I learned along the way from my time at AWS is that cloud is not for everyone. A lot of wasted spend. Gartner finally admits that there's a lot of wasted spend that's happening in cloud. A lot of developers came and they said, okay, great, we'll do that lift and shift in the beginning, but then we want to build microservices. What happened? The microservices never got built, so the cloud spend got out of the way. When I was at AWS, I was there to do R&D and innovation with companies. Do you know what I spent my time doing? Talking about their infrastructure as a service and how it doesn't fit and how they need to reduce money, okay? So we don't want to do that. And the funny thing is, too, and this is something else we threw on the whiteboard, is that as much as the cloud providers tried to tell you that on-premises was dead and you weren't going to need to have something in somebody's four walls anymore, they built products to go put things on premises. So obviously that trend is not dead. It's something we need to think about. And then Scrooge happened. We all know who that might be. And that was a big changing point for us. And again, we said, all right, we are not doing this. This is not happening again with whatever we build. And so one of the easiest ways to kind of figure out what you need to build is ask your customers. Seems scary, but when you actually do that, it helps put a little bit of, make sure they have some skin in the game. And so we asked our customers before we started on this journey what really mattered to them. Performance reliability, they wanted cost predictability, they wanted things to be simple, they wanted self-service. They were realizing, hey, what we were trying to do in virtualization wasn't self-service, no vendor lock-in. They wanted that true cloud-like consumption. They wanted an API to play with. What's funny about this is they didn't say, I wanted it to work like this, or I needed it to have this hardware. I needed to have it work this specific way. They were looking for these general kind of features, and then also a good SLA and everything else to go around it. But for me and the rest of the team, we thought it was a pretty simple task to go and take. And so last year, a lot of our talks were spent on CloudStack and why we chose it and what that looks like. And I think all of you in the room that are using it would agree with these, maybe even add some more. But these were our core principles on why we were going to adopt and grow into CloudStack. And you all know when you commit to something, if you only go 5%, it's not going to be a success. And so this is something that we wrote down on paper that we were going to commit 100% of our time into and make sure that we can go and figure out how to create an impact for our customers. That's the past. Let's talk more about the present. So again, last year on stage in Madrid, we launched our intentions to move towards CloudStack in the future. Do you know how many customers we had last year in Madrid? Any guesses? Come on, give me some. I need some energy here. How many do you think? 1. Anybody else? 100. 0. You're right. You're right. And you know how crazy people think you are when you're going to go and spend all kinds of money and go, we go to a conference in Madrid and we're like, my boss, the CEO, the board, they're like, what are you doing? You don't even have any customers here. What are you going to talk about? Well, the customers, they come, right? Or they should, if you commit. And so we had 0 customers in Madrid last year. And I'm proud to say we have a few more now. And I'll get through those numbers. But it wasn't an easy feat. So when we launched, we knew that we had to, push something different into the market. We had to create some noise. That blip that Yvette showed, half of those were probably my LinkedIn posts. Because I think I post about it every day. If actually I didn't post about Apache CloudStack or OpenCloud, I actually had wellness checks come to my house to make sure I was still living, because I was that passionate about it. David made fun of me about it multiple times. But the launch was huge for us, and we tried to take out as much risk as possible. We launched it on enterprise hardware. We went and had performance testing done on validation. David did a talk on that last year. We launched 2 sites, so we were ready to go for a primary, secondary for people. We focused on infrastructure only. If I learned anything at AWS, it was is people needed infrastructure. We made sure then we started to push out that we were open source focused. It was a true cloud consumption model, that this was different. And how do you think it went? It's like, it was slow in the stand, and so we said, oh crap, we need to make sure that we were amplifying this message and talking about it more every day. And so I want to share some of the things that we did, and again, happy to collaborate on these, happy to even make it better if you think there's something we could do better here. The market education was a huge challenge for us. So we took our solution architect team, we focused them on talking about what we call OpenCloud, which is our version of Apache CloudStack. And we did, we had at least 600 some, solution architects conversations in the first few months. That was all our life was about. We started doing demos. We started doing proof of concepts for people. We started building that pipeline, of 10,000 plus was kind of our goal. We always wanted to have at least 10,000 VMs in the pipeline ready to go. And I'm proud to say we have a lot more than that right now. And we did it through multiple ways. So on our website, we threw out a simple form to do a demo. It was something simple. Okay, great. We drive people towards that, see how it goes. We got a lot of demos there. We started doing a lot of public speaking about it. So we were doing virtual sessions, webinars. We had a lot of fun with that. We started doing something really unique, which is called the Cloud Advantage Virtual Summit that I'll talk about in more detail to kind of showcase all the things that we were doing in multi-cloud as we're driving into our OpenCloud product. Literally, like I said, every time I got on stage, I talked about OpenCloud all year long. I think I've done 12, 13 keynotes this year, somewhere around there, and every time I've talked about OpenCloud. So we just continue to amplify that message. And then we did a lot of documentation. So that was something we also launched with. It's just a heavy documentation focus. It's all out on the public internet. You can actually take your Grok or whatever your LLM of choice is, look at it, and then start to query it, which is a lot of fun. And then we created videos around it. So customers wanted self-service. We showed them how to actually do all those things. But it wasn't enough. We needed to really get that impact felt to our customers. And for me, this is not the norm for me. So for me, I am not a cost-focused person. That is not what I do in the morning. I want to wake up and create something cool technology. I don't want to have to say, buy this because it's lower price, or that bad word, cheap. But that's where the market went when VMware made it a costing game. So we created something called the Cloud Cost Comparison Calculator, which allows a customer to upload their inventory and get an instant cost of what it's going to be if they run on our platform. So I'll show you a quick little demo of how it works. And you can actually go to our website, and actually if you just Google US Signal Cloud Cost Comparison Calculator, you can all take a look at this yourself. And so it's a very simple, web page. You come in, you upload an RV Tools, a Nutanix collector, or a Live Optics file. I'll throw an RV Tools file in here right now. And there is no paywall or anything like that. You can actually just go and do this without us getting all your information until you actually want one of those reports, and I'll show you what that looks like. So you run calculate pricing. What it does is it goes and it matches, finds an AWS instance, finds an Azure instance, finds an OpenCloud instance, and also then creates a VMware Cloud Provider cost there and says it does a quick little analysis on what it would cost if you stayed there. So let me pause this real quick. So one of the things that we do and the way we launched is we have two different models. So you can actually buy in a month-to-month format where there's no discount on the product, or you can commit to a multi-year term. And so as you kind of go through here, you can change some analysis options, figure out which one you want to fit with. But I want to highlight this. AWS, Azure, about the same price. OpenCloud, about half. That's an impact. If you're going to go and say, hey, you got to repatriate out of public cloud, or it might be a good idea, or hey, maybe you need to change your VMware cloud provider that you're at right now. Everybody's going to ask why, and is it going to be worth the effort to do that? And for us, we thought so, and so this proved that point. I mean, if you could potentially save, and we haven't even gone through the discounts, 50%. If you walk up to any company in the world or any person in the world and say, hey, I can take that same thing you're buying and save you 50% and provide you all the same performance, provide you all the same benefits, how many people are going to do that? Quite a few. And so this is one element that we built that we thought was pretty interesting that has been a big driver for us for most of this year and a lot of our customers. And so we actually go through, customers can go and do this on their own, or they can actually work through it with one of our solution architects to then figure this out. And then we give them the ability to have this nice report created, and so they can pass it on to the executive team or whoever they're trying to sell. But this has been a big movement for us to kind of continue to educate people in where they're going in their cloud position. Another interesting thing we did to focus on really the marketing of Apache CloudStack and OpenCloud was creating our own summit, the Cloud Advantage Summit. We created it at a very unique time. This also happened to be the last week of August. Does anybody else know what else happens the last week of August? There's another virtualization company that has their own conference at the same time. Very, very random that happened. But we put this thing together. We brought 14 sessions. We had analysts. We had customers. We had US Signal experts on it, industry friends. And this was a huge surge across all of our platforms. And it's something, again, that I would welcome you all, because we're going to do it again in 2026. If you're interested, reach out. We'd love to have you on as well. You can see we brought people from all over the place. We even had Nutanix on there because we want to talk about that multi-cloud journey to make sure that people have options and choice. Again, being open and honest and transparent with how we're actually pitching things. But the two big ones we had, and if you worked with Zerto in the past, Rob Strecce, he led product there for a long time, so he came on as the keynote analyst. But Rebecca Weekley was the big one. And so she's a friend of mine in the industry. She runs the cloud infrastructure platform for Geico. Geico is a multi-billion-dollar insurance company. And if you've seen them in the news, they're doing something really interesting. They're actually moving out a lot of their infrastructure from Azure into OpenStack. Yes, not CloudStack, but same concept that is showing a major trend where people, a multi-billion-dollar company is going and moving and switching and swinging into the open source world, which is going to be great for our community as it's just more validation. But we put this on, it created a big wave. It was something that would continue to drive conversations. And as we kind of look through the year, we have to look at some of the success. Again, I'm open and honest, transparent. This is our success as of, I think, maybe 2 weeks ago when I put these slides together. But we've gone from 0 customers to 43 customers in 12 months. Those are the billing paid ones that are finished with their delivery. Almost all of those customers were migrations, which is interesting. And we haven't even started pushing on our base yet. We have 60 hosts in production, 650 VMs in production, and we're going to continue to grow these numbers in the future. Now, with all this market education, in this start of the success, because I think we are only getting the flywheel going, we have to do the same thing that we did 2 years ago when we were building the product for me to say, all right, we're going to have continued success. Anybody know what that is? It's really simple. All you have to do is ask your customers what they need next, and they help drive your business plan. What do customer migrations mean to you? So customer migrations is we are moving them from another platform, another provider, into our OpenCloud platform. Yes. We can do the migration, or it can be self-service if you want as well. So the question is, out of the 40, how many do we migrate ourselves? I'm going to say almost all 40, right? Yeah, all 40. I think there's when they're in the proof of concept stage, we'll have some people test out the migration on their own, but then they utilize us mainly, for the network side of things. That's where it always becomes tricky. Moving a virtual machine from one place to another is not exactly rocket science, but that actually getting that network up and running and making sure that all those pieces are coming together, that's kind of key. But it is something that we see as a trend in the future, and what we're trying to offer more tools on is to actually do more self-service migration. One of our big customer base is the MSP community. So they're out selling some sort of services to their customer, whether it's security, application management, whatever, and we're the underlying platform on it. And so they're looking for more self-service as they continue to grow. A lot of these migrations too, were a handful of their workloads. And so we are creating a flywheel and a backlog right now that we have one customer that's moving from Azure. They had a big 6-figure spend in Azure, and we've been working on this now, but I think it's like a dozen customers or so that we're moving out of Azure. So we have individual customer change controls starting in January that'll probably go till June of just customer after customer after customer. So we'll pick a subset of their customer base, move that, and then start the next one. And we think that's going to be a huge trend for us. And so one of the things we're actually focusing on the migration side is working with outsourced providers to help us. And so we need, more power to get that done as we scale. We actually have a deal in the pipeline right now that I think is about 15,000 servers that we would have to migrate, and that's one where we're going to have to need some, get some more help to go and do that. All right, so we ask in the middle of the year what our customers need to continue to grow, or what's missing out of the platform. They said enterprise backup and DR is one of the biggest ones. They wanted multiple licensing options, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. They wanted the ability to do inference. They were already starting to look and see where the future is going. They want some sort of different processing, GPU processing. So it works out that GPU as a service is something we support now. Desktop as a service is another element. They said, okay, we moved and we switched our servers, or we want to switch our servers, but we also need to connect to the desktops. And then the other thing that they started asking for, we started in too, they want more locations on premises, in partner data centers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So here's our roadmap for 2025. We are pretty much done with all of these things right now. And this is, again, something that's came out of asking our customers, where do you want us to go in the future? So GPU as a service is a big one. I know we'll be talking about a little bit of that with one of the other presentations this week. The ARM side of it, so partnership with Ampere, I saw their logo somewhere. So we're really excited about that. We have that up and running in the lab, ready to go to production. The desktop as a service is really interesting. We launched that in, I think, July timeframe. We had our first customer within a few days later, and that's one that's been growing in a lot of popularity. So We're saving them these big dollars on running their servers. The next question is like, where else can you run our infrastructure? Desktop as a service makes a lot of sense. Disaster recovery is something we just launched in October, which was the biggest demand that we had from our customers, especially when they were looking at where they were. So if they were on VMware today using Zerto or Site Recovery Manager, something like that, they needed to have some sort of equivalent inside of the open source side, which is something we just finished in October that we're excited to hit the market because we changed the game a little bit on that product and made sure it was agnostic to any cloud, which then also can be used as a migration tool. All right, that was kind of our 2024-5 in a nutshell. Let's talk about 2026 and beyond, because that's really the exciting stuff. So where are we going? What's the ghost of the cloud future? Well, before I hit that, I want to make sure that I publicly claim my love for open source. I don't have a tattoo yet. I probably will never get one, but I have a surrogate tattoo engineer on my team that is going to get the Apache CloudStack tattoo. He's committed to it, so we'll have that. Hopefully, maybe next year we'll show that. But every day I read more and more, and I think more about the problem for the future. And it's not only in this virtualization space that we're at, but even looking at like where SaaS is going to go in the future. I just think open source and that commitment is going to continue to grow. And so this is just a quick report that I grabbed the other day in building kind of some of the data set. But it asks a very specific question. So VMware was acquired by Broadcom. How does your company react to changes in the licensing model? And what I think is really interesting is this first one, monitoring the development. Why do I think that's interesting? It's opportunity. That a quarter, 26% of the people that are out there are sitting and waiting. I love laggards. Laggards are great because then they have something forced upon them, and also they all see all their friends doing it. So the more we can communicate and talk about the successes, the more that team's going to say, or those companies are going to say, okay, let's go and adopt it. But I think really the vendor lock-in fatigue, that's going to be a big challenge, I think, for a lot of people. And I think it's going to hit more on the global scale. So everybody was talking about Cloudflare this week with their outage. And I think there's going to be a big push where it's like, okay, at what point does Cloudflare take down my business for a few hours? They give me back a $50 service credit, and I pay them $10,000 a month. How does that make sense? And so I think there's going to be a lot more opportunity, and the lock-in that's happening inside of that SaaS platform today is going to open up, and it's going to be a lot of open source focused. The other thing I am really bullish about, and I hope so because I'm here talking about it, is the CloudStack growth in the future. Just seeing new hands pop up in this room reaffirms that for me, is that this is going to be something where we'll have this room at I don't know what the number is right now, but hopefully we start doubling this thing year after year, and there's going to be a lot of focus, I think, in the industry here. So this one is a great question. How has your organization increased the use of open source software over the last year? Over 50% have made a commitment to use open source. And in the beginning, open source was Red Hat, and that was the big kind of run there. Everybody talked about Ansible, but I think there's a lot more focus on it now. So we're going to see more a growing ecosystem here. And as we look at AI in the future, this is going to be driven even faster. And so as we start to look at like closed source versus open source, I have a strong feeling that in the next 10 years, it's going to be closer to 50-50 than it ever has been. And CloudStack for me is a big, is a big focus that I'm going to continue to talk about. I'm going to continue to try to educate as much as possible, and I hope everybody else in the room does as well. Now, what's really exciting for me in the future is this kind of next wave of innovation that is here. I mean, we are literally standing at the threshold of the next industrial revolution with AI. It is going to change everything if it hasn't changed. I will tell you one thing it hasn't changed, though, is like I tried actually to looking up a dad joke before I came on stage. the LLMs do a horrible job. Grok, Claude, they do a horrible job at dad jokes. They just have no humor. So the AI robots, when they take us over, hopefully they get a little bit of humor then. But I think this next wave of innovation is going to be huge. This edge cloud thing is going to be a mega model that we're watching right now, is that as people are training their models, they're going to have to start to generate revenue off of it. How do they generate revenue? By getting the data closer to the end customer, to go and start getting insights to the end customer, to providing them some sort of value service. This is going to be a big part of it. This is one of the things I want to see the project go towards, to figure out how to get multi-sites, how to get fleet management figured out, how to make sure that we can have these small appliances that can start to live everywhere. I do believe we're going to get into cloud repatriation 2.0. One of my leading indicators for cloud repatriation 2.0 is not just what I'm seeing with my eyes and what customers are doing and talking about, is that analysts have finally agreed that, yes, this is a thing. And so right now, this is from the Flexera State of Cloud report that they do a really good job on every year, is that 21% of workloads repatriated. This number a few years ago was in the teens, if not single digits. And this is a number that I think is going to continue to grow in the future. And the why all makes sense now. If I can save a few bucks, if I can get better performance, if I can make sure that I can control my own destiny, that I know where my data lives, this makes a ton of sense here. And we're starting to see this going to become a factor because of this. So hybrid and multi-cloud maturity is starting to happen at a faster clip right now. So repatriation will become a lot more of a thing as you can start to then go and scatter your workloads across multiple clouds. So let me talk to you about our roadmap. And this is one, if you haven't paid attention for the last 30 minutes, I love your focus here. Because if there's anything interesting on here that we're doing, and you want to collaborate and work on it with us together, or you have this idea already, or you've tried it and it failed or it didn't work, let us know. We'd love to have that feedback. That's why we're part of this community. So we want to launch in the next year, and we have this, it's probably about 75% baked right now, OpenCloud Anywhere. And a lot of this stems from the last culling of the herd that VMware did in September, I guess it was, where they announced that they were going to start to reduce down the service providers. I had 2 people frantically call me and say, John, because I spent a lot of time in the VMware community. I was on stage every year at VMware Explore and VMworld, and I was part of a lot of the big user groups there. And I had people calling me and they say, what are we going to do? How are you handling this? And I told them, hey, we've been working on OpenCloud since 2023. Like, we're on our path and on our journey. They said, well, can you help us? Can you do it for us? I said, all right. I talked to the team. I said, hey, look, can we go and help the other people that are out there and run OpenCloud for them on their hardware in their data center? And it's a model we're working on right now. So it allows them to have an escape button from where they're at today to then go and push towards open source in the future, and allows us to then continue to scale our footprint and grow that way. And so that's something that we're working on for 2026. Super excited to get that launched. But being able to do it on their hardware, I think, is going to be the key element. And so I think that's going to also be one of our key problems. We're working on what we call OpenCloud Marketplace. And so when we rolled out the desktop as a service product, that is completely automated. You literally click a button and you have a desktop as a service platform inside of an OpenCloud, inside of your OpenCloud environment. And so something we're going to continue to evolve in 2026 is building a fully functional marketplace that allows our customers to go and launch curated IT tools to make their life easier. So you want a firewall, you want a load balancer, you want whatever it might be, something you packaged yourself, you want an agent potentially when we start to get on the AI side and the inference side of things, we can launch it from this marketplace and go. So we want to provide that ability for users to create their own apps and create their own self-service for their team. Again, something we heard from the core in the beginning is that users want self-service. Another thing that we're focused on this year is ecosystem leadership. And so our goal, and something we've committed to, is pushing all of our ISVs, so our independent software vendors, to go and support CloudStack. Every time we go and do an executive briefing or we get on the phone with their executive team, we ask the same question. Hey, can you support CloudStack? Hey, can you support CloudStack? How many times do you think we've asked that question in the last year? Quite a few. How many answers do we get? And somebody said, yeah, I think we can do that. Any guesses? One. But hey, one's a start. And so Commvault is one that we're going to be talking about this week, and somebody that's come in and said, okay, yeah, we'll actually support what you're doing in the community. And last but not least, the goal here is to launch US Signal Inference Edge inside of the next calendar year. And so this is where, I'm a firm believer that edge deployments are going to be the way of the future, especially as we go and push on AI. But also what it's going to do is start to allow us to bring all of our core competencies as US Signal into one place. So if you remember our core competencies from the beginning is data center, fiber, and cloud. This is what it looks like. And so if you're not familiar with the map of the United States, this is Indiana, this is Ohio, right in the Midwest. This is a new fiber network we're building right now for the hyperscalers. This fiber network is significantly different. The backbone of most fiber networks to provide the internet, maybe 192 fibers, 384 fibers. This backbone we're building is 4 conduits with 4 microducts, so that's 4 times 4, we're at 16, that we can pull 864 fibers in through each of the microducts. And so we're literally talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of fibers that are being built for this new AI network. And when we're doing that, we're putting these little green boxes along the way. And those, if you're familiar with fiber, have been referred to in the past as ILAs, or inline amplification. So you can only shoot the light for so long, and then you need to terminate it, and then go and shoot the light of the next part of the distance, and then carry the data across. And they look like this. And so we have 8 of these under production right now. But you'll notice these don't look like the huts of the fiber past. These are actually mini data centers. And inside of those mini data centers, our goal is to offer OpenCloud. Now, why? Well, I talked about it last year in my keynote that this new edge is coming. This new edge thing is going to happen. And so as you think about AI, what really is AI? It's more of a business application rooted in the fundamentals of distributed architecture. And so if you think about distributed architecture and why that's important, is if you're in a cornfield or some sort of farm field out here, and that's what majority of Ohio and Indiana is, and you have a lot of data being generated by tractors, or you need to have real-time insights from a self-driving tractor. You can't wait for that latency to all the way go back to a big public cloud network. You need to have an action and a reaction as fast as humanly possible. This is going to be our focus and answer for that in the future. So we're really excited about that. But I wanted to talk, that was more product side of things. The whole OpenCloud vision has still not changed. And this is something that I heard last night when we were talking with Giles. But this is our goal, and this is what we end almost every one of our talks on right now, is our goal is to be honest with our customers, honest with ourselves, honest with the community, open with everybody, our customers. We tell everybody what's going on. I put my roadmap up here for everybody to see. If you want to copy it, go for it. Again, like I said, let's work on it together. And we want to be transparent in everything that we do. And so, a year ago, we shared a vision. Today, we're delivering on that impact. And tomorrow, together as a community, we'll shape the future of open computing. So if there was a good day to get into open source, it was probably yesterday. The next best day is today. So look forward to working on that with everybody. But now there's still one thing, the impact side of it. Because none of this matters unless you have an impact. And for me, and this still gives me goosebumps, I'm getting goosebumps right now, is the impact our customers have told us about. We had a customer say they did the migration, we did the migration for them, and they were expecting it to go bad. They were expecting a week worth of work to kind of try to fix it all. And what happened? The migration happened and it was over, and the teams were like, okay, well, that was pretty simple. And they talked to us about that on video that David was able to put together. And it's still like every day, makes me happy, makes me smile that everything we've been building provided an impact for their business. So thank you for making this the smoothest migration ever. It's not a platform, it's a strategy. That's the impact we were looking for 2 years ago when we set out to kind of build something different. The nice thing about it too is that we have proven the fact that OpenCloud can save companies money. And saving money is interesting, but saving money to then take that money and reallocate it towards something else that's critical to your business, that's really the impact that we were going for. And that is one that we have definitely won on in spades. So with that, I thank you for your time. Again, the QR code here is to download the presentation. I try to do everything open and honest and as much as possible. So we open source our cloud, and we open source our talks to you as well. So the future is ours to shape. Hopefully we can build it together. I think I do have a few more minutes for questions if anybody wants to go first.